Today's show is brought to you from Danny Laramie Therapy Solutions. Danny is one of the best soft tissue guys in the city. I've been using him since I was actually 23 years old and I was still playing rugby. And he has been able to fix me many times. Many of our clients have used Danny and have given me positive feedback in regards to recovering faster from their injuries or just looking for general health. So if you're looking for someone to help you with any type of stiffness, neck issues, back issues, or any injury that you've suffered, please go to DannyLaramieTherapy.ca. He is one of the best in the cities. And actually, my daughter is his youngest client. She's been seeing him since she was 8 years old. And she just loves going to see him because she says he always makes my body feel better. So if you have some issues, nagging issues, or you're looking to improve the way your body moves, please give him a call. I trust him wholeheartedly. Thank you. All right, so today we have Randy Turner in the podcast room.
Yes, sir.
How are you doing today?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Very good.
Good.
And you just landed last night back in the country.
Yeah, was out of town for a few days.
Did you at least get to some heat?
No.
No.
The weather is much like it is here.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it
I don't
was.
know what the weather is today. I thought it was pretty cold. It's got to be in the minus 20s.
It's chilly.
Something of that sort. So, Randy, tell us a little bit about yourself today. All right?
So, what do you want to know?
Well, so I know that, so we'll go through a couple things. Is that, me and you have had some dealings. We actually knew each other from 3 or 4 different people. We ended up seeing each other at a wedding.
That's right.
Remember we met,
Yeah.
we met each other, what was it, the first 2 weeks?
Yeah.
We talked on the phone.
That's right.
Then we met somewhere, and then we met at a wedding, and we're like, hey, we know each other.
Yeah.
It was like within 3 months, we saw each other every month.
Yeah, it was funny. I think we had a conversation on the phone before we actually met, and then when we met, we put 2 and 2 together and say, "Oh, there, hey, how you doing?"
And then it just kind of put
Went
it all
from there.
together. But you've had an interesting life around holistic or around nutrition, training, optimizing your body, and I really want to dive deep today into just helping people understand more about the journey and all the things that you've gone through to learn more about your body. Right? Obviously, you've been in the. I'm going to let you do your bio, but kind of tell us about where the journey began for you, about why you started to learn more about your body.
Sure. So I started professional mixed martial arts late in my life. I was 30 years old. So my first pro fight, I was 30. Started training pretty consistently and taking the sport of mixed martial arts seriously when I was about 27, 28. And at that point, I'd already been a part of the Canadian Special Forces for about 4 years. So what I did was I used to be in the Canadian Armed Forces, the what's known as the RAG Force with the PPCLI, and that was in Winnipeg. I found out about this job and this opportunity called Joint Task Force 2.
Okay.
So I set my goals on applying for this organization and becoming part of that team. And the reason that motivated, or what motivated those reasons rather, were becoming part of an elite organization that does very specific things with a group of guys that are very like-minded. So it motivated me to want to be part of that. So fast forward. I did about 5 years with the PPCLI in Winnipeg. Tried out for this unit that I'm currently part of. Was successful. About 4 or 5 years into the organization, I felt like there was something missing. I felt like I needed something on top of that. So while being a Canadian Forces Special Operations soldier, on top of that, I became a professional mixed martial arts athlete.
Yeah, I think that people don't know how pro of an athlete you have to be in that unit, right?
Yeah.
You're almost a pro athlete at that point. You are a pro athlete at that time. You're the best of the best.
In a lot of ways, the comparisons are, with a soldier, an assaulter with our organization, very much similar to a professional sports team athlete, be it football, baseball, NBA, whatever sport you want to relate it to.
Except no off season.
Except no off season, right? There's a lot of differences, but the stresses and the expectations that are put on the two professions are very similar. So,
and the body,
right?
It's got to perform.
The body and the mind, right? So, when we talk about conditioning and we talk about nutrition, we talk about food, we talk about human performance. Oftentimes, I think it's getting a lot better now, but I think oftentimes the neck up component doesn't really get the attention that maybe it should. And the reason I say that is because over the last probably 5 to 6 years, I became really interested and started to study on my own in sports psychology. And I found that just an added component to an already elite lifestyle, if you will. Right. So it's just another component that the more we learn, the more we understand, the more we can implement certain things that will give us that 1 or 2% advantage.
So you were in the military.
Yeah.
You applied to the elite forces.
Yep.
You got into the elite forces. Then you got into being a pro MMA. And then, so you're now doing both, right?
Both,
so we've been to one of your fights, right?
That's
We
right.
had a great time watching. And so then, now tell us, what were some of the things that made you understand more of why you needed to change your nutrition and why you needed to take more ownership of your health, other than the fact that you're a pro athlete?
Yeah.
But what were some of the things, what were some of the symptoms or some of the things you started noticing? Or was it just by fluke that you tried a new eating system, or someone told you about something? How did that start, where you really started to dive deep in nutrition? Because me and you have met,
Yeah.
right? And I know you're well rehearsed in many different aspects of nutritions and different types of eating, blood work, and mindset. So what were some of the things that really stimulated the next level? Was there like a joint pain or a headache? What was the cause or of the want for the next level?
That's a great question, and I can tell you exactly what it was trying to perform at a high level, both at work and then. So, for an example, I would start my day at work. So, get up at 5:30 in the morning is normally what time I get up. Spend some time with my dog. Go for a walk, pack my lunch, get my stuff squared away for my day.
One sec.
Yep.
So what would you eat? Everybody talks about now morning routine. Is it that you just wake up fast, or what do you do? What is it? I mean, it starts early in the morning. Just walk through 5 minutes of
Sure.
what I think everybody
Sure.
would want to know. What is what is it a person of your job eat? Like, wake up in the morning, walk your dog. Then what? Coffee, water, lemon. What is it?
So typically we'll say for when I'm in fight camp. So I'm going to work full time, but then when I leave work, I'm prepared to, and I get the opportunity to go train for a couple hours after work. So my days were long.
Yeah.
Right? So I would get up at 5:30, but I wouldn't come back home until most cases between 9 and 9:30 at night. So I would have to pack enough, sustenance to get through the day. So what I would pack would be very specific. And what would happen is I found once I created the formula or found the formula that worked best for me, I wouldn't deviate from it very often. So it'd be the same thing. The same thing daily, and day in and day out, which sometimes becomes boring, but it works. So why change it, right?
There's something to be said about consistency, intensity, and duration.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we'll talk more about later is, how did you get to that formula?
Yeah.
Right. Because that's the fun. That's the stuff that people need to hear.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
I'm sure that took 8, 5, 6, 4, 3 years or something of that sort.
Oh yeah,
for
for
you
sure.
To be able to figure
It was not overnight, that's for sure.
Okay.
So typically it would be I'd wake up, spend some time with my dog, make a coffee, bulletproof coffee. Typically is what I mix. So what I mix in my bulletproof coffee is a typical dark blend. Normally is what I go after. So I'll put in some brain octane as well as some MCT. And I also will add in a mixture of 3 different grinded mushrooms. So I put in the mushrooms right in with the coffee grinds themselves, and I'll boil all that up together. So what I would do is I make my bulletproof coffee, and then I take my dog for a walk. So I'm sipping on my coffee while I'm walking with my dog. I don't typically eat too much in the morning. I might every now and again have a hard-boiled egg or something while I'm driving to work, but that would be pretty much it until about mid-morning.
What's a drive like to work for you? 30 minutes, 40 minutes?
It's about 60 minutes. So
okay,
it's a bit of a haul.
That's a haul. Okay.
Yeah. So I would get to work, break into the daily routine, whatever that might be. And then normally mid-morning at some point, we'd get a break. That's when I would have like a first, real meal. And that would be a couple of eggs, some vegetables, depending if I had a workout in the morning. And then I would add a little bit of carbohydrates. And that would be pretty typical.
What's your carbs of choice? What would be your carbs? Like sweet potatoes? What's the one that works?
Yeah,
well
sweet potatoes is my go-to. Sweet potatoes or yam.
Yeah.
And the reason I like them is because you can eat them cold, you can eat them warm, doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
So they're easy to go to. Every now and again, I would eat a gluten-free piece of toast, something of that sort. Yeah. But typically nothing too heavy, but something that would just help restore those blood sugar depletions. So that would be my mid-morning. And then carry on with my day's work, whatever that might be. I mean, it could be a mixture of firearms training, explosives training, maybe some medical training. It's always different.
So you're moving though. You're
That's
moving
right.
like you're working. Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's not a desk job. So there's always a physical component, something physical in the morning, usually a break at lunch, and then something physical in the afternoon. That's a typical day, Monday to Friday, for what we do at work. So that said, morning routine, whatever that was for work, and then break for lunch. And then lunch typically would be, I try to keep it pretty simple, like think about the macros, right? So the protein, whatever the starch might be, and some veg.
Now,
Right?
do you count your, like on a daily basis? Maybe in a fight camp you might count your weight because you got to manage your weight, but
Right.
on a daily basis, would you count or weigh out your food, or you just really go on feel?
Go on feel.
Awesome.
Yeah, go on feel. So like, everything I keep kind of like a handful status, a handful of protein, maybe a handful of starch, whatever that might be, sweet potatoes or otherwise, and then maybe 2 handfuls of greens. So that was kind of my go-to.
Yeah.
And then afternoon, do whatever training might be required for that day. And then once I'm done work, then I got to shift my mindset as well as my physical output desires for whatever's going to come for the MMA training. So I wouldn't eat very much prior to, maybe slam back a protein shake of some sort. Mm-hmm. And typically it would be a bulletproof or a collagen protein.
Yeah.
With just water. So I drink that before my training session and then post-training session. So depending on the session, sometimes the sessions are more intense than others. Sometimes they're more technical than others. So that would dictate what I would eat on my way home. So it always
you're packing all your food. So you're talking about your mid-morning meal.
Yeah.
Right through till your second post-workout meal.
That's right.
You guys get PT in the morning, right?
That's right.
So your second post-workout meal, you've brought with you.
That's right.
Awesome. And so then you're eating that on the car.
Eating in the car.
Eating cold.
Yeah.
Right? The glamorous life of just eating good food.
Yeah.
Right?
As long as it's good quality food, whether it's hot or cold is irrelevant. Because at this point, it's for fuel to perform. Yeah. It's not for taste, not for desire.
Add salt to your food though?
Add salt, definitely. Add salt to the food. So I guess this would be a good opportunity to just touch on some of the pros and cons. So the pros would be, yes, it works because I was able to train at a high level, keep my energies up, was always in a good mood, and sleep well at night. The negatives is sometimes that there's no opportunity, or there wasn't a lot of opportunity during the day to be mindful, to just like, okay, enjoy the food that you're actually, that you prepped the night before, right? Yeah. Or the day before or whatever. You're not really enjoying it. You're just consuming it to get on with whatever activity you have to take care of.
Yeah, but I think I think there is a point where that's okay.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're in the week, right? Like I kind of go with your same mindset of during the week, I want to enjoy my food, but I don't need to I want to be connected to it to understand that I am eating good food. And I think that's something I tell my clients, just make something that you enjoy, but it doesn't have to be, I love this food, it's perfect. But when you do have the times to cook and make it enjoyable. But I also think that finding recipes, like I'm sure you're probably cooking so much food, right? Same with us at home, that I've just figured out that I have 5 or 6 spice blends that keep it simple. I'm sure you have your 5 or 6 spice blends that have there, but definitely I think there's a point of you get to a point where, and I'm sure you can confirm this, is you say, I'm not so much connected to my food because I already know how I'm going to feel.
That's right.
And to how I feel is more important than what I'm consuming, because at the end of the day, I'm accomplishing all my goals, and I know that this formula works for me.
You nailed it, and that was exactly part of the journey and part of finding what works in creating that formula. Was once I did find it, it took away the added stress of trying to prepare that thing, or do I like that thing, or will my body like that thing, or whatever that is. So it would take all that kind of out of the equation, which made it made the recipe, if you will, a lot easier to sustain.
So at 23, when did you join the military?
I joined the military right out of high school, so I was 19 years old.
23, you decided you're going to go for the next level. Okay, so now from 23 on, I want to talk about that recipe.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
Okay, so when did the recipe book for you, right? Because me and you were just talking about this, about how the recipe book for you is going to be different from me.
Right.
And people have to accept that.
Right.
Right? So if I say to you, hey, I'm doing, like people always ask me, what's the style of way do you eat? I don't have a style.
Me
I
either.
just eat how I feel best.
That's right.
And that might be with rice.
Yep.
That might be with, so let's just say I'd like protein, carbs, and fats.
Yep.
But at breakfast, I might just eat carbs. and I feel amazing, and I'm still getting leaner. I still got lots of energy, but yet we get demonized if we say, why don't you eat gluten? I don't know, because I feel better.
Yeah.
I feel better when I don't have it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Awesome. That's it.
And so now I think you're at that point because you've gone through probably, I mean, your experience of what you've done in life, you've probably tried 50 different types of eating systems.
I've tried a lot, yeah.
So walk us through the recipe book building, because
Sure.
I'm finding that's the most interesting part, because we don't tell people that it took 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. It's an evolution, not a revolution.
Yeah.
So walk us through recipe book building.
Sure. So where we're at now, where I've come to, the spot in my life where I am now is almost every meal, pretty much every meal. I'm pretty religious with a protein, a fat, and a carbohydrate, almost with every meal. But what will be different is the amount of carbohydrates. So that's the only thing. Like, I'll still eat the same fat, I'll still eat the same protein, but the carbohydrate will be either more or less based on my activity level, and it's solely on that.
Do you ever go on feel? Did you ever have those days where you say, I think I need a little bit more carbs today?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
Or
Awesome.
What I find sometimes is if I want to be a little bit more cognitively sharp, for example, coming into this podcast today, I knew that if I didn't eat a little bit of carbs, like, I may trip up on putting my sentences together or whatever. I
spiked your coffee.
but certain things, if I know what I'm getting into, then I might add a little bit more carbohydrates just for that cognitive connection. And that's the real reason for it.
I spiked your coffee with lion's mane.
But prior to that, I did a lot of soul searching, if you will. I did a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
And
so how'd you do that?
So I was diligent and detailed with taking notes and
Perfect.
journaling, and I would look back at two major factors were how did I perform and how did I feel.
So you're testing.
So
what gets tested?
Tested. Yeah.
Like they say, I think what gets tested gets done.
Right.
Right. So now, are you working with a coach at this point, or you're not? Are you doing it all solo?
So to be honest, I did a lot of it on my own, just from reading articles and getting educated on, the best possibilities and what was out there and what was available. And it wasn't until I met you, and it wasn't until another colleague at my work had put you and I in contact that I had an official coach.
Okay.
Because I once upon a time would go see representatives at work, at the medical staff, and ask for a requisition to do a complete blood panel. So I would get complete blood panels, understanding, where my testosterone levels were, where my iron levels were, magnesium, et cetera, but I didn't have enough knowledge to know what to do with it. So it was great to have the information, but until I met you and I said, hey, Harry, this is a recent blood panel. This is my activity level. This is what I've been eating for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And the reason that I came to see you was because I wanted to get faster, stronger, recover quicker, and perform better. So those were the motivating factors.
But you had one thing that when you used to fight, that you used to tell me happened all the time before a fight.
I would often get sick.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was your driving. That was one of your motivating factors, right?
Yeah.
See, it's not just about weight loss to come and see a nutrition. It's like, hey, this could be a simple issue. Not a simple issue, but this is something that we need to fix. So I love that.
Yeah, that was a big component that, I should have made mention earlier, because, I would get depleted and broken down, and it, I'm sure that a lot of it had to do with just the pace that I was maintaining, the work pace, training pace, and I think a lot that is to be said with what we consume for nutrition, how it affects our sleep. So if we're not getting adequate sleep because maybe we ate too soon before we went to bed, or we didn't eat the right things before we went to bed, then that's going to have the knock-on effect tomorrow, right? And then if we get into that bit of a rut where if you're not correcting it without
quicksand,
it's the quicksand without the knowledge of understanding what to eat and when to eat it, so you can sleep better. In turn, you'll perform better tomorrow and maybe prevent getting sick. Those were the motivating factors to coming to see you.
Well, I think people still forget that food, is going to affect your day.
Yeah.
You're going to eat on average. There's 3 things that I've realized you do more, right? Sleep more, right? You're going to sleep 8 hours of your day. You're going to eat maybe 8 to 10 hours of your day, and you're going to talk for 12 hours. If those 3 things aren't in sync, right? Because now I'm starting to see language become a big issue, right? Because it can help you get into your flow state quicker.
Yep.
But what I want to dive back on is, the recipe book here.
Yeah.
Okay, so, you journaled, you detailed, you put together your protocol, then you came and worked with a coach. So, that was only about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So you're talking about from age 24 up until maybe a decade on your own.
Yeah.
Right? So walk us through a couple of things. One is I think what people need to hear is how many times you did well and how many times you failed, but it wasn't a failure. You probably learned something from each programming style that you ate.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So 10 years, detailed journals. And so walk us through a little bit of the mindset of that, right? So how long would you try different things? Would it be 2 months, a month, right? Because a lot of people now are saying, well, I did this program for a week. I didn't get any results.
Yeah.
So walk us through, would you have testing measures that you'd say, I'm going to do this for 3 months, 2 months, or would you know right away if something didn't work? Because
some things I knew right away because my body would just react. So I would either, have gas or, heartburn, indigestion. So I knew there was something that I consumed and I would just eliminate it.
Okay, so you've got the acute factors that you're like, hey, that's not for me.
Yeah, bang on. I thought, okay, I got to eliminate that. It's not doing any positive for me. And then the other things I would give most often, I would give at least 4 weeks. So 4-week trial.
Okay, good.
And the only thing that I would do differently day to day would be maybe the times that I would consume those things. So I would take note of the time that I would eat whatever that is, but I would stay true to it for about 4 weeks. Then I would look back at after those 4 weeks and say, honestly, like, how did I feel? How did I perform? And how was my sleep? So,
awesome.
So I would take those 3 things into consideration. And in some cases, not really being able to pinpoint those 1 or 2 nutrients that were the difference, I would sometimes add more of one thing or add less of something different, but I would always take note of what that was. So I'll give you an example. Once upon a time, my salads would be massive. I would eat a ton of greens and as many colorful vegetables as I could possibly put into that salad. But oftentimes I was getting heartburn from something. And without the protein, without the fat, just the salad, I was still getting heartburn. I couldn't figure out what it was. So each vegetable individually I would take out the next day. So the same salad, you look at it and well,
like mono-mealing it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's
absolutely.
right.
Very strong, very good old school technique.
So because I had no one to lean on, I was just trying to figure it out on my own. I would take a note, and lo and behold, fast forward a couple of days, I figured out that it was cucumbers. Like I just couldn't eat a cucumber.
No such thing as health food. Only healthy food for you.
Right. So anyway, so once I eliminated that, then I was still getting all the good nutrients, but I just felt better. So things like that, and it was continuous note taking. Reverting to the notes and then just trying to make little micro-managed kind of adjustments daily.
And then when you fast forward now, you don't have to weigh.
No.
You don't have to track.
That's right.
Right? You just go on feel. And then if you do want to get to the result, let's say you do have to get to, another fight or anything of that sort, you can don't go back to your notes and have it, right?
That's right.
You've done the R&D, but you see, I think that's something important. It took you 10 years to figure out that R&D.
About that, yep.
And, we're starting to learn that we can probably nowadays, with working with a coach, you can probably hybrid that and do that in a year.
Yeah.
Right nowadays. But the good thing is that you're so connected to your body, right?
Yeah.
You know how you're going to feel if you eat a pizza. You just know.
That's right.
It's not like, well, why do I feel like garbage today? It's like, well, you ate a pizza last night and you drank 2 beer. Chances are you're probably not going to sleep the best.
That's right.
But, by eliminating doing all that hard work really is what got you to where you are. So 10 years of hard work, journaling, entering, like that's amazing. Yeah. Like that's the stuff that we need to hear more of, right?
And it's funny too, because when I look back at the notes, and we were talking about earlier before we kicked off the podcast was, with today's, don't really want to call it a fad, but it kind of is. Like people throw out the catchwords like, oh, I'm paleocentric or I'm ketocentric. When I look back at my notes, there are days where it's very much paleo and there are meals that are very much keto, but it wasn't always the consistent, right? So I would alter it to get the desired effect.
And I think the one thing we also have to wonder, like you have a crazy schedule during fight camp. Yeah. You have a crazy work schedule, right? So like you probably travel while you guys are on call, right? So walk us through what happens to you now when you travel, because you have a timeline, right? It's within a day they can tell you got to go.
Yep.
Am I right?
In some cases, that's right. Yep.
So how do you deal with that? Because a lot of people travel, and we kind of use it as a Band-Aid sometimes. Well, I traveled, I wasn't able to eat perfect. We already know that.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So what are some of the tricks and tools that you did? Because I'm positive you probably traveled 6 to 8 months of the year.
Yeah,
2 weeks like here, there, everywhere.
2 weeks here, 3 weeks there, 6 weeks there. Yeah, it was very common for many years that I was away from home as much as I was at home. So
that's hard on your mind, but that's going to influence your food choices too, right?
Course.
So how did you do it? What are some tricks that you would tell, whether a young person is an MMA or a parent, because I think the one thing is, although you are an elite sports athlete, a lot of our clients or a lot of people out there are also elite themselves, right?
That's right.
They're working a full-time job.
Yeah.
They've got 3 kids. They're trying to run they're trying to get a workout in.
Yeah.
And so they travel for work. And what are some of the tips? Because you're a pro. You'd probably be a pro at traveling.
I mean, right? You're absolutely right. Everyone has a struggle, and everyone has demands, and everyone has stressors. So it's not uncommon for a lot of people to go through the same kind of troubleshooting struggles. When I'm traveling, I try to keep it as simple as possible. In some cases, you're right. The food choices that are available to you are not that great. But I truly believe that even no matter where you are, there are, even within those establishments where you can purchase food, there are choices that are better than others, right?
Just being conscious.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the stuff that I would pack on my own, very commonly, I would pack, typically I would pack glutamine and protein. So I would take that stuff because it's in a powder form. It's not going to freeze. It's not going to melt. It's easy to carry. All you need is to add water.
How does the glutamine go over at the border?
No.
Excuse me, sir. Are you bringing in some cocaine here?
Yeah, no issue so far. And then some of the other things I would take for supplementation would be maybe some granola bars, protein bars, and almonds. I eat almonds pretty regularly because it's a nut, a seed that works well for me, and it's easy to carry. So those would be my supplementation.
So you brought some things to prepare yourself so that you're not completely jammed up.
That's right.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Right.
So that would be my travel go-to. So that's easy to pack into a bag. And then wherever we are, depending on the time, in some cases we're lucky where we work because we've got a group of people that will help provide some of those food choices for us. So while we're working and doing our thing, there's a group of people that will maybe outsource from the local economy.
Food catered in.
Yeah, get food catered in. They'll bring that stuff in. So
now they open to you guys saying, for example, because a lot of people work in companies and they're always shy to say, can I get meat and vegetables, or can I get, I know when I try to go away to places, I always try to make advancement on, like, is there going to be an egg-free meal for me, or a dairy-free or gluten-free, because I just don't want to feel like garbage. I'm not worried about everything else, but I will try to make sure that the things that make me feel the worst are not in the meal.
That's right.
Right, especially when you're trying to perform.
Yeah.
And so are you able to make those recommendations, like, because I'm sure everybody in your environment are looking for good protein, good vegetables, good starches. Are you able to make those recommendations in advance? Is there any backlash, or is it just like, no problem, guys?
Yeah, it's getting a lot better. Once upon a time, there wasn't a lot of feedback given or direction given. So the people that were, acquiring the food, they would just get whatever was probably most easiest and convenient for them. So you saw a lot of pizza, Subway sandwiches, they're trying and they're trying to do the best that they can with the money, the restraints that they're put upon. I find now it's getting a lot better where not only are they asking for the feedback, but the end user is providing more direction on the proper food. Like, instead of a table full of pizza, for example, maybe you can have a table full of hard-boiled eggs and a mountain of vegetables or whatever.
Or if it's going to be pizza, can you get a salad with it?
Right, stuff like that.
Make it better. And this is something that's important because companies are wanting to make sure that staff are eating good food. But if people aren't emailing in advance, like, hey, can we make sure there's vegetables, or can I get they're not going to start to make those transitions. That's right. But it always starts from the bottom to the top, right? So you guys start asking for more, and then the changes start happening. That's amazing.
And, and some of the guys that I work with they're anomalies where they would eat, a can of cat food and, and like a box of chocolate, and they'll still perform. They'll still get after it, right?
Yeah, but we also have to remember there is that 3%. Of, I think one of the big things that, you see on Instagram, it's like, hey, I lost 30 pounds.
Yeah.
I did keto for 30 days. Yeah, but probably 5% of the people that are able to, like, I know 5 guys in the back of my head who ate garbage, have a 6-pack abs all the time. Yeah. Right. And in your world, that's probably more common because.
Be the guys that would never say anything. They're going to eat whatever's put in front of them. Right. Yeah. But what's happening though is there's more and more people interested, invested in what's going on, and they're just becoming more and more educated on the pros and cons of eating properly, right? So
I'm sure. So what are some of the side effects? So you've gone through this transition. Now you travel. You bring some stuff with you. Lots of planning, lots of self-reflection. Yeah. Now walk me through in regards to what are some things today that you do all the time? Like, what are some things that you do now
Like
for your health?
non-negotiables?
Kind of like non-negotiables or standards. I think I tried to use non-negotiables last time, and someone said, "Here, it's more of changing your standards." You know, something like me. No matter what, I'll wake up in the morning. It's a liter of water, and I have to hug my kids. It's non-negotiable. That's my standard of how I love to start my day.
Yeah.
So, what are some things now that you do that are just like this is the way it is, and it's just normal to you?
Yep, that's my thing too. I'll drink probably about a liter of water, and then I'll follow that with a glass of kombucha.
Yeah.
And then I'll have my bulletproof coffee. That's my daily routine, no matter what. And then some other things too that I've adopted over maybe the last time you and I met is I don't eat any red meat and I don't eat any pork whatsoever.
Yeah.
So
Are you still following your food sensitivity test?
And the food sensitivity is a
Yeah.
really good guide, and I would say I'm 95% true to it.
That's very high. It's great.
Because I found that it does make an effect on how I feel. So it was less about I really like the taste of that thing. It was like it's not worth it because of how I feel.
Yeah.
Now that said, I mean I'm still living too.
We're human.
So,
Yeah.
Right. So I mean there's weekends where I'm gonna have some whiskey, drink a few beers, and probably crush a couple pieces of pizza. But
those
that's
are
not
anomalies.
common. That's right. That's not a regular occurrence.
And I'm going to bet your friends and your environment know that this is just an anomaly.
Yeah.
They're not saying, oh, you do this all the time.
No, I don't.
And you know,
Yeah.
when people see that picture on Facebook of somebody doing that,
Yeah.
you forget about exactly what you said. I was up at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
I did my 2 training sessions today.
Yeah.
And so all of that work that you did, also people just look at that picture like, oh, well, that person does that. I can do that.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't work like that, right? You're forgetting about the other 30 meals that you ate were perfect and your output was great.
Yeah.
Right. So what else? Is there anything else that you do?
Yeah, so I don't eat pork, no red meat, unless of course I'm at somebody's house and that's what they're serving. I'm certainly not going to say no, I won't eat.
Different
that.
ballgame.
Right.
Yeah.
But and then I eat a lot of fish and a lot of poultry. So that's regular. So if you open my fridge up any given day,
What are 3 foods in your fridge? That's awesome.
Yeah, so the 3 foods that you will always find will be broccoli,
Yeah.
celery, and then some sort of fish or poultry. It'll always be in the fridge ready to be cooked or prepared.
Simple.
Yeah.
Simple, beautiful food, not some kind of diet. Just, hey, what do you have in your fridge? That's it. And obviously you like sweet potatoes.
I love sweet potatoes. I eat a lot of those. Yeah.
And so you went through this transition.
Yeah.
What are the things that obvious was body composition change was probably better, performance was better. Was there anything else that came out of your journey that you didn't realize would be a benefit today? Right? So for example, I had a client in here the other day and he said to me, he goes, ever since I've incorporated following your food sensitivity test, I just realized that I used to get nosebleeds all the time. And I looked through his paper. I'm like, we don't have any notes of nosebleeds. You didn't even put on your 17 pages. He goes, no, I used to get them like once every 2 weeks. And now he doesn't get them, right? Since following his food sense. So there's obviously a connection to him around that. So is there anything else that, for example, if I eat really bad, the one thing I know is my mood.
Yeah.
Right? Like I didn't realize how food can really affect my mental cognition and performance. Could there be 2 or 3 things that you could share with us today that really just you didn't realize that they were there, but they just happened?
Yeah, mood and cognition for sure was an effect that I noticed, and as well as my sleep, and they often went hand in hand because it would be a moment before, like kind of like a bedtime routine as that started to kick in. That's when I would get moody, and that's when I would go to sleep. But I would go to sleep because of the mood that I was in. It would be already not a great beginning to the sleep, or it would be a broken sleep. So, in conjunction with staying true to the food sensitivity and understanding what food is adequate at what time, the moment that I would vary off from that would be the moments that I would feel the moods and I would notice the sleep interruptions, if you will. And like there's other things too that will help that I've noticed when when I meditate on a regular basis.
So you do meditate?
Yeah. So on a regular basis before bed is when I find it's most effective for myself. Always helps me sleep better, unbroken, less disturbances during the night.
So you listen to this, right? You're an elite performer, right? You basically are up for 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
So if we kind of review what you do in a day, right? It took you 10 years to get to where you were,
Yeah.
right? Sleep, you fixed your sleep. You started meditating, so you're taking care of your mindset. You're eating better food for you. You're not following a diet. You figured out the Randy Turner diet.
That's right.
Fair to say. I think that's the most important. We shouldn't be demonizing people for saying, hey, I feel better when I eat like this.
Yeah.
And you're encompassing all the aspects of trying to really take care of your body.
Yeah.
Right. So that way you're able to serve our country.
Yeah.
Right. Which is awesome for us. And encompass that the body heals holistically. Right. So now walk me through what are 2 things or 1 to 3 things that you would want to share with others going through a struggle in terms of their nutrition or finding their health, or what would you want to say to that person out there saying, hey, here's what I could say happened to me, or that you'd want to share information to others?
That's a really good question. I would say the individual that is wishing for something different upon themselves, which is great, whatever that improvement that they want to see or the life that they want to have, if they're able to connect with their why and stay true to their why for the reasons that they're doing what they're doing. So if, for an example, somebody's in a struggle for whatever reason, and everybody's circumstance is different, but maybe they're just not happy with the way they look, right? They want to lose a few pounds, or they want to look a certain way. I would question them to, why is that? Is it because you want to feel better? Because that's very, very different than wanting to fit into a pair of pants because you're going to get an extra like on social media.
So be clear on that goal.
Yeah.
What is the goal? Absolutely.
Right. So be clear on the goal, really connect with your why. And then, with most anything, humans are goal-oriented people. So, strive to set that goal that's, attainable and realistic.
Test it, measure it, right? Maybe work with a coach, right? Something of that sort that you can have. Okay.
Yeah. And then once it gets into place, then you got to have a coach or a close friend or somebody to help keep you honest. Accountability, because a lot of people don't like that dirty word called responsibility. Well, we need to take responsibility, and if you can lean on somebody to say, hey, to give you that, either that little bump of motivation, or to kind of kick you in the butt and say, hey, like you said your goal is this, but the way you're acting is countering your desires. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So those kind of factors, I would say, if you can at the beginning have somebody to help you out with that, what you'll find is your internal intrinsic kind of desires will take over. Then you'll no longer really need that coach. Well, I shouldn't say that. Everyone needs a coach, but you won't need that external motivation on a regular basis.
That's right.
Yeah. But I think we all need a coach. We all need to be able to lean on somebody. We all need to be able to, pitch ideas off somebody and get some realistic, professional feedback.
Yeah. You need, I think what you're saying is you need someone to chat with,
bounce
ideas off. Right.
Yeah.
And it's not so much about, that's why I tell people, you don't always have to have a goal. You don't always have to have a plan, but bouncing ideas off with different people to figure out where you're going to start, that can start to develop your plan and help you decide the goal. Because most people that come in, even to our office, say they want to lose weight, but then after we go through the assessment, that's not even their goal, right? Because we're able to establish a clear path of like, hey, here's your goal. But the thing is, all this other stuff that you're talking about in the appointment here, so we got to focus on that first.
So I think with your point that it kind of goes hand in hand with, you're having with a coach, those discussions with a coach that can help you is a neutral body, where if we lean on a family member or we lean on a close friend, in some cases, because that close friend or family member loves you, they're going to sometimes tell you what you think you need to hear. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Instead of just being true and say, listen, I don't think that's cutting it. Where a coach, especially if you hire somebody, you're going to be more invested. And that coach is going to give you the straight goods because their livelihood depends on it. So they kind of go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so now, to end the podcast, tell me something. Where does Randy go from here in terms of nutrition? Are you working with people? Are you coaching? Are you doing anything? Or are you just are you working with a coach? Are you doing something? Is it specific now? Or what is it? Are you in maintenance phase? Where are you at right now? And how does it look for you now moving forward with your nutrition? Are you trying different things still, or do you kind of feel like you're comfortable where you are?
I changed things up just over the last probably 2 months because I was recovering from a shoulder surgery.
Yeah.
So I wasn't training as much or as hard as I normally do. So I had to make some changes, and I do feel that my body composition has changed. My weight hasn't changed, but my composition has changed, and I think
You're recovering though.
Yeah, I think there's probably good reason for that. That said, I'm starting to switch my diet again, so it's more almost into starting to get into training mode again.
Yeah.
which I'm hoping by December I'll start to be training full time again. I'm slowly getting back into it. But to answer your question, I'm really invested and interested in continued education and, different courses that are available by different organizations, either through Canada or the States. Maybe it's a weekend course, maybe it's a week-long course. I truly believe that each and every one of those individuals has one or two nuggets that I'm sure will be beneficial and just continue to add to the repertoire of knowledge.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You're always a student.
Yeah, always a student.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's leave it at that.
All right.
Well, thank you very much for coming in.
My pleasure.
And I hope we can share more information like this. This is great.
Yeah, let's try to do it again.
All right. Sounds
All right.
good.
Thanks, Harry.
Thank you.